Yeah, I did my research, but there were things that I just didn't think about until after the fact. So this is a list of 10 things that I wish I'd known before having VSG. These are things that I just kind of learned along the way. I didn't really consider until later on or until they occurred. And so let's get into the list. So my list is in no particular order. These are just honestly things that I wish I would have known in order to be able to consider, how I would respond to them once they did occur or if they did occur. So I love food. There's no surprise there. Always have, always will. I thought about food constantly pre-op. I mean constantly, day in, day out, from the time I woke up until the time I went to sleep. And I kind of wish I knew that post-op I would still think about food quite often. Now I don't think about food as much as I did, but it's still on my mind a lot. And the good thing about it is, for the most part, they are usually just fleeting thoughts, whereas before I would have to have something to eat almost every time I thought about food. Now it's just a thought. It's just that. And I think with me, it's more so because food is not only food to me. What I mean by that is food has always meant a lot in my life, but more so than just about eating. Food was how I connected with someone who was very important to me, the most important person in my life, to be honest, my grandmother. We spent a lot of time around food, or just doing things together, and one of those things we did a lot together was cooking. I would watch her cook. I would sit in the kitchen with her while she was cooking. We would sit on her front porch and snap peas and shell peas and do things like that together. So I always enjoyed food, but it wasn't only about eating to me. So I think that's part of the reason why it's still always on my mind, because even now I cook a lot. I cook a ton. I've been cooking ever since I was probably 8 or 9 years old. I mean, every food appliance there was, I had the Easy Bake Oven, Tasty Bake Oven, the little slushy machines. I mean, everything, I had it. And it would always make me smile when people would like something that I cook, even though, I'm a kid. It's just something heated up with a light bulb or something. But I've always enjoyed food, not even only for myself, but the way others responded to my food. And it's still that way now. I absolutely love the joy that people experience after eating my food. And so food will always be paramount in my life. It absolutely will. It's just now I don't always have to eat it. So that's one thing. I knew that my taste buds would change. I'd heard that, but you kind of don't think about certain things until they actually happen. And that's what happened to me. Like I said, I'd heard about it, but it was just something I researched, or one of those little tidbits of information you find out when doing your research, something that I thought would happen to me until it actually happened. So I thought about it, but I didn't think about it. It was just something I read in passing, and it was like, oh, okay, whatever. But then when it actually happened, it's like, oh, I didn't know it was going to happen for real. I thought that was just something that was a possibility, you know. So I kind of wish I would have known that my taste buds would definitely change, or I wish I knew which foods it would change in regards to. Of course, that would have been impossible to know, but that's just kind of one of the things I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known that I would no longer like or be able to tolerate the taste of crab cakes. In another video, I discussed how I used to love crab cakes, jumbo lump, blue crab. It didn't really matter. I love crab cakes, and now I can't stand them. It was just one of those things that you kind of wish you would knew specifically what it would apply to, but you don't until it happens. So I wish I knew that. I knew I would get questioned, but I had no idea the amount of questions that I would get. You know, I guess to a certain extent, weight loss surgery is still somewhat taboo, and so people naturally have questions about it. I mean, and that's expected, but I just had no idea how I would be inundated with questions on the topic. And it doesn't really bother me. I don't mind answering questions at all. I'm no guru, I'm no expert, but like I said, I did my research. I have a little bit of a background in dietetics and nutrition, and so I know a little bit. I had to take classes on weight loss surgery and the various types of weight loss surgery and how people would be able to eat and certain things like that. But that was just, you know, my own knowledge. However, now that I actually had the procedure myself, I get asked so many questions via email, via Facebook, via Instagram, just in general conversation, because like I said, I have no shame in the fact that I had weight loss surgery whatsoever. So if I'm out and about, there's been times where I've had to share that information. Well, I didn't have to, but I volunteered that information when I was out eating at a restaurant, and because I could not eat so much, the waiter or waitress may have had questions, and I let them know why I could not eat that much. And so that would lead to other questions and so on and so forth, or the few people who are in my life that know I've had it have had tons of questions about it as well. And so I kind of wish I knew that I would receive so many questions. It would have prepared me better with I guess how I directed my answers to people. I tried to answer as many questions as I can, as often as I can, but sometimes it's just impossible. Like, I rarely get that many questions, and my following isn't huge at all. It's not big, but the amount of questions that I get in comparison to my following, you would think that no one else answers questions. And I don't know, maybe some people don't want to share that information, but I'm an open book. I always have been. I have nothing to hide, and that is something that if I feel like it can help someone, especially someone who's on the fence or who's considering it, by all means, ask away. I just kind of wish I knew that I would get so many questions so frequently. So yeah, that's that. So I knew that as a result of weight loss surgery, I would lose weight. Kind of know that. That's kind of a given. But what I did not consider was where I would lose weight. You know, you just consider the norm. You think you're gonna lose weight. You know you're gonna lose weight. You know this is gonna aid in your weight loss some way, somehow. But I didn't stop to think about the fact that I would lose weight in places like my feet. Like I really didn't. And that sounds trivial, and it is to a degree, but it isn't when you are someone who went through so many clothing sizes the way I did, as well as shoes, shoe sizes. I didn't have the whole bunch of shoes to begin with. You know, I love to shop. I'm the typical girl when it comes to shopping, but I never really bought a ton of shoes because I never really saw a ton of shoes that I liked. And so, you know, I had a few pair of shoes, but it's like I didn't know that I was going to lose like a size, a whole size and a half, or a whole shoe size. That never happened before. And I lost weight, a large amount of weight before. It was over a much longer period of time. For example, I lost 75 pounds over, like, I think it was a total of 2 or 3 years, something like that, like 3 years. But never did my feet shrink. They always stayed the same size. But post-op, like I said, around month 9 is when I started to literally walk out of my shoes because they were so big. So I kind of wish I would have known that. That would have just been something good to know. So yeah. So they give you these guidelines to follow post-op in terms of when you would be able to eat certain foods again. And with my particular guidelines, it was pretty much following the same rotation that I followed pre-op to a certain extent. For example, pre-op, I had to do a liquid diet. Excuse me. Yeah, I had to do a liquid diet. And then I had surgery. And then after surgery, I had to go back on the liquid diet for 2 more weeks. And so from the liquid, then I was advanced to pureed. And then from pureed, I was advanced to soft, and then from soft I was advanced to solids. So it went liquid, pureed, soft, and solid. Well, I didn't necessarily follow that process succinctly because I just couldn't go from soft to solid. Like, it just didn't work for me. And so it was a little bit frustrating per se, because each of my various food stages, each of those rotations were in 2 weeks. And remember that pre-op, I had to do a 2-week liquid diet. So it went 2 weeks pre-op, 2 weeks pre-op, then another 2 weeks pre-op, so that's already a month. Then 2 weeks pureed, so that's a month and a half. And then 2 weeks soft, so now we're up to 2 months. And then I was supposed to be able to eat solid foods at like month 2. But no, I had to go back to soft foods again for another 2 weeks. So I kind of wish I knew that I wouldn't necessarily be able to eat solid foods at that particular time, but that's something that you just definitely would not be able to know until you experience it. There's no way to know that. These are simply guidelines, and different surgeons have different guidelines. I mean, and they're just that, they're guidelines, because just because they're saying you should be able to eat a certain phase at a certain time does not necessarily mean you will. But it's something you really don't know until you experience it. So yeah, that's it. So I knew things would change in terms of how I would eat and drink and what I could eat and drink. But I did not know that I would totally have to relearn everything. And I know that's probably different for some people, but for me, I had to relearn everything. In addition to not being able to eat and drink at the same time like I'd done, I guess, most of my life, I had to learn how to chew within like a certain amount of intervals, because quite naturally, for the most part, I'm sure most people don't count the number of chews they do. Most people. There are some very pedantic people who might, but I'm sure most people just chew and then swallow. But you really can't do that, you know, post-op. You truly have to be conscious and cognizant of the state of your food before you swallow it. You can't swallow lumps or chunks in your food and think it's gonna just be fine. Like, no, you're going to feel that, and there's a possibility that it could come back up, it could get lodged. There's so many different things. So and this is also trial and error. A lot of my list is trial and error, or you don't know until you know. But I kind of wish that I would have known. I had to relearn everything. You also have to relearn how long of a time frame in between eating and drinking. There are recommendations and, you know, guidelines, but you don't know what's going to work for you until you actually experience it. So that's something that I kind of wish I would have known in advance, but you don't know it until you experience it. So this kind of, to a certain extent, goes back to the shoe thing. I went through sizes like so fast. I was up to, I think at my biggest, like a 22 wide. Well, the largest pair of pants I've ever owned was a 26 wide. But in shirts and stuff, I was like a 22 wide, pants 24s, some 22 24s. And in no time, like, my shirts dropped from 22 wides all the way back down to like medium 8'10". I can wear some 4'6" or even certain 3'5", which are smalls, but I just had no idea how fast I was going to cycle through those clothing sizes. When you're that large, when you're 22 wide and stuff like that, even if you do lose a few pounds, you usually are able to still fit those clothes for a certain amount of time. But no, that was not the case. I shrank inch-wise drastically, I mean super quickly, and that was almost mind-blowing. Like, I knew I was going to lose weight. I just didn't know that I was going to shrink in size so rapidly. I had no idea. So I kind of wish I would have knew that. So as with anything associated with being online, you have to deal with trolls, and you know, that's fine. It is what it is. Some people just need attention, and that's their way of going about getting attention. Do what you gotta do. But I did not know that I was going to have to deal with the online food police. You know, it's so funny how people who have also had the surgery or procedure or a form of weight loss surgery themselves now suddenly feel like they're some sort of a part of some sort of elite eating society and can dictate what you should and should not eat. And I experienced that very early on, post-op, but I did not know that was going to happen. Like I said, I'm familiar with trolls, very familiar, but I just did not know that they would come at me so vehemently and with such force in trying to tell me what I should and should not put in my mouth and when I should and should not do it. You know, as if I hadn't just had the same procedure that they had a few months prior. But you know, it is what it is. I kind of am the type of person that I have very thick skin, and I also have a very slick ass mouth. So, you know, I'll go back and forth with you and I'll entertain you for a little while. But at the end of the day, I love features like block and things like that. So kind of wish I knew they was coming, but it is what it is. I wish I knew that there were not that many support groups around for people who have had VSG, because there aren't. You know, And a lot of times we don't have the most supportive families, and some families aren't supportive just because they aren't supportive, and some families aren't supportive because they don't understand. So you want to surround yourself with like-minded individuals or people who are in similar situations as yourself, but it's very hard to find these communities. And so I kind of wish I would have known that there aren't that many, but I plan to do my part in order to rectify that situation. And I'm currently working on developing a community for individuals who've had weight loss surgery, so that we can connect and relate and express our feelings, and just to have that mutual support from those who've been through what you've been through. You know, it's really good to surround yourself with those who understand, or surround yourself with like-minded individuals. So I kind of wish I knew that there weren't that many around, but knowing that now, I plan to do something about it. So this is probably the biggest change, or something that I wish I knew. It's not necessarily, well, it is a change, and that's it. I wish I would have known just how much VSG was going to change my life, because it has. I had no idea my life would change in so many ways, and I am beyond thankful and beyond happy about the changes in which I've encountered. It's given me a life, and this is only the beginning, because like I said, I'm not even a year post-op, but within the amount of time that I've had VSG, I've done so much, and I've had so much of my life back, and I just couldn't fathom being able to do the things that I can now. Like, I walk everywhere. I absolutely love walking. I mean, if I could walk, you know, I don't know, like 10 miles, I probably wouldn't. I ain't that good yet, but 5 miles now, 4 miles now. Like, I absolutely love being outside, walking with my headphones on. Or y'all, I try to play basketball now. I suck, but I love it. Like, it's so fun. And I never played basketball before because I never could. But now I'm always out there shooting hoops, and I got my free throw down a little bit. And, you know, so it's just like, and I travel like crazy, you know, and that was something that I've always liked to do, but my weight hindered it. So I just had no idea how much my life was going to change. And I kind of wish I would have knew that, but I know now. So all in all, regardless of what I did or did not know pre-op, it doesn't change the fact that I'm totally overjoyed and happy with my decision. It's probably the biggest decision of my life at this point, and I'm glad it's one that I made. I'm glad it's something that I decided to undertake, because I'm usually extremely afraid, especially of surgery. I've never had any major surgeries, so this was a big deal to me, but I'm glad I decided to go through with it. And in terms of, you know, knowing certain things in advance, it's impossible to know everything in advance. I tried to consider as much as I could, but it's just certain things that you won't know until you actually go through them. So if you've had VSG or any sort of weight loss surgery, what are some things that you wish you would have known in advance or pre-surgery, and would those things have changed your mind? Why or why not? And if you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can keep up with me, and I can keep up with you. And I will see you in the next video. All right, bye.